Hey everyone. I honestly never thought I'd be writing something like this. I used to read stories like these and think, damn, that must be rough, never imagining I'd be in the same boat. But here I am, staring at the ruins of what used to be my family, trying to piece it all together like some kind of sick puzzle. A bit of background: I'm 46, my wife, let's call her Emily, is 43, and we have a 19-year-old son, Jason. He's in his first year at university, studying business and playing on the school's basketball team. Emily and I have been together for 22 years, married for 19. From the outside, we looked like one of those annoyingly happy families people envy. Nice house. 2 cars. Beach vacations. Our kids talented, good-looking, polite, you know, the dream. Emily always played the perfect mom. She was at every one of Jason's games. Not just watching either, she was involved. Like, weirdly involved. Bringing snacks to practice, organizing fundraisers, constantly chatting with the coaching staff. At first, I thought it was sweet. A supportive mom cheering her son on. But after a while, it felt off. She got especially friendly with Coach Ray, mid-30s, ex-college athlete, single, charming in that frat boy who never grew up kind of way. I remember joking once, if you ever leave me, I guess I'll know who for. She laughed and smacked my arm like I was being ridiculous. Looking back now, it wasn't funny. It was foreshadowing. The first signs were subtle. Emily started going to practices even when Jason didn't want her there. She'd stay after to help with paperwork or have a quick chat with coach about Jason's scholarship options. She was always glowing when she came back. I thought it was pride. I thought she was just happy for our son. God, I was such an idiot. I didn't know it then, but that basketball court wasn't just where our son chased his dreams. It was where my wife destroyed mine. So yeah, things started to feel off. You know when you just feel it in your gut but can't explain it yet? That was me. Emily became distant. Not in a dramatic, screaming, throwing plates kind of way. Just emotionally muted. Like she was living next to me, not with me. Conversations got shorter. Sex all but vanished, she always had some excuse. I'm tired, stress at work, let's not rush things, we're not teenagers. I swallowed it for a while. After all, we were in our 40s, not newlyweds. But then, her phone became a constant companion. She used to leave it lying around without a second thought. Now? That thing might as well have been surgically attached to her hand. Always face down. Always locked. She started using a passcode she never told me, and trust me, we used to know everything about each other. I asked once, lightly, new code? What's the secret? And she snapped, privacy isn't a crime, you know. Okay. Sure. Privacy isn't a crime. But secrets are a different beast. Then came the night that really messed with my head. Jason came home from practice early, way earlier than usual. He was pissed off, said Coach Ray told him to cut out early because he needed to review footage with someone in the office. Jason shrugged it off and played Xbox all night. I didn't think much of it until Emily walked in almost 2 hours later. Hair messed up. Shirt a little wrinkled. Makeup smudged just enough to look like she'd wiped it quickly in the car. Traffic was horrible, she said, tossing her bag down and heading straight for the shower. But I had just checked the traffic. I was planning to go pick up some late-night takeout. The roads were completely clear. I stood there, holding my keys, staring at the front door, thinking, why the hell are you lying to me? Still, I didn't want to believe it. I made excuses for her. I told myself I was paranoid. That this was just marriage fatigue. We've all heard the cliché, right? You grow apart, things get routine, blah blah blah. But something had shifted. Something real. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach every time she smiled at her phone. Every time she went to grab coffee and came back glowing. Every time she said she was at the gym but came home without a drop of sweat on her. That's when I decided I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I just didn't know how far it would go, how far she'd already gone. I had no idea I was already living in the aftermath of the betrayal. I just hadn't seen the body yet. Alright. So after that night, the one where she came home looking like she'd just had a lot more than a casual chat with the coach, something in me snapped. I stopped pretending. I didn't confront her right away. No yelling, no accusations. I played it cool. Polite. Calm. Like everything was normal. Because if she was cheating, I needed proof. Real proof. Not suspicions. Not bad vibes. I needed something undeniable. And yeah, I found it. One night, about a week later, Emily fell asleep on the couch. She was half curled up with her phone still in her hand, screen dimmed but not locked. I don't know what hit me in that moment, maybe it was years of loyalty screaming for justice, but I picked up the phone and opened it. No passcode. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she trusted me too much. Whatever it was, the universe gave me a window, and I climbed through it like a desperate man on the edge of a burning building. I went straight to her messages. Nothing weird there. Then I checked WhatsApp. That's where I found it. She had a chat saved under the name C.R., and the moment I opened it, my heart dropped into my stomach. The first thing I saw was a selfie. Not one she'd ever post on Instagram, this was different. She was in that stupid pink tank top I hated, biting her lip with this look I hadn't seen in years. Not for me anyway. The caption said, "Just for you. No distractions tonight, face blowing a kiss." Then the messages. C.R., can't stop thinking about you today. Emily, you better have that office door locked this time, smiling face with horns. C.R., don't worry. Already thinking of excuses to get your son out early again. Emily, LOL, he's clueless. God, I love how risky this is. I stopped reading. I couldn't breathe. I swear to God, I just sat there on the edge of the couch staring at those words like I was watching a live feed of my own humiliation. My face went hot. My hands started shaking. And the woman who sent those messages? She was right there, 3 feet away, sleeping like a damn baby. That was the moment I realized I'd been living in a lie. A full-blown fantasy of trust, loyalty, and love, and she tore it to pieces in some dirty office with our son's coach. While I was busy making dinner. Cleaning the garage. Paying the bills. Supporting her. Believing in her. She used me. And the worst part? She used our son as cover. That was the moment the betrayal became unforgivable. I didn't know what to do next. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake her up and make her explain herself. I wanted to break something. But I just sat there. Frozen. Hollowed out. All I could think was, she chose him. She chose him over us. I didn't sleep that night. I sat there on the living room floor in the dark, listening to her breathe while every piece of my world crumbled silently around me. I must have read those messages a dozen times, hoping, praying, that somehow I'd misinterpreted them. But no. There was no room for interpretation. This wasn't emotional cheating. This was physical. Repeated. Brazen. Mocking. The next morning, she woke up like nothing happened. Kissed me on the cheek, stretched her arms, and said, "I had the weirdest dream last night." I didn't respond. Just looked at her. Something in my eyes must have tipped her off because she narrowed hers and said, "You okay?" I nodded. "We need to talk." She froze. I asked her to sit down. She did, arms crossed, one leg bouncing like she was already on the defense. I held up her phone and quietly asked, "How long has it been going on?" She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Emily. Don't. I read the messages. Between you and Coach Ray." There was this horrible silence, just a few seconds long, but it felt like a black hole opened up between us. And then, the mask completely dropped. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She laughed. "Wow," she said, shaking her head. "So now you're going through my phone like some insecure high schooler?" I stared at her, stunned. "That's what you're leading with?" She stood up, arms flailing now. "You want to talk about betrayal? How about the fact that I've been the only one putting any passion into this marriage for years? God forbid I find someone who actually makes me feel like a woman again." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You mean our son's coach?" I said, my voice cracking. "You used our kid as a pawn just so you could sneak off and screw some younger guy in a gym office?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Don't act like you've been some amazing husband. You've been boring. Predictable. Safe. That's not love, that's routine. You think just because you provide, I'm supposed to stay miserable forever?" Miserable. That's what she called our life. The life I worked for. The house we built. The family we raised. Miserable. "I sacrificed everything for this family," I whispered. "And you threw it away for some locker room fling with a guy who barely knows what commitment means." She crossed her arms and spat out the words I'll never forget. "Then maybe you should have given me a reason to stay." And with that, she walked out of the room, no shame, no remorse, leaving me standing in the wreckage of a life I thought was still standing. She didn't even try to deny it. Didn't beg. Didn't explain. She made it my fault. That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. I was dealing with someone who never really loved me in the first place. Someone who viewed loyalty as optional, and pain as a price she was perfectly willing to make me pay. The house was dead quiet after she left the room, the kind of silence that isn't peaceful, but charged. Like the air just after a bomb goes off and all you hear is that high-pitched ringing in your ears. I didn't follow her. I didn't yell. I just stood there, rooted in place, staring at the couch where she had smiled at her phone 100 times, now knowing who she was smiling for. Anger was the first wave. It came hot and fast. I wanted to throw something. Smash that stupid phone against the wall. Drive down to that university and break Coach Ray's smug face. How dare he step into my life like that, into my family? But you know what surprised me more than the rage? The sadness. The emptiness. That came next. It hit like a cold wind through a shattered window, quiet but cutting. I sat in the kitchen, staring at my coffee, thinking about every little moment we shared that now felt poisoned. Our wedding day. Family dinners. Late-night drives. Laughing at dumb movies. All of it, fake. Or maybe not fake, but at least not sacred to her the way they were to me. And then came the worst part of all. Jason. Our son. My boy. How the hell was I supposed to look him in the eye and pretend everything was fine? He loved his mom. Idolized her. Still does. And Coach Ray? He admired him too. Looked up to him. Thought of him as a mentor. Hell, I remember Jason once saying, "He's like the cool uncle I never had." And now? That man had slept with his mother while coaching him. What kind of cruelty is that? I couldn't tell Jason. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I wasn't going to be the one to shatter his image of her, at least not until I figured out what the hell came next. Emily acted like nothing had happened. For the next few days, she was back to being normal. Cooking. Working. Even humming in the mornings. Like she had just cleaned up the mess and moved on. But I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was barely functioning. I found myself staring into space for hours, scrolling through old pictures of us on my phone, torturing myself, I guess. I'd look at a photo of her kissing me at our anniversary dinner and wonder, was she already cheating then? Was that smile for me, or was it just her playing the part? She never brought it up again. Not once. She didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't try to talk. She acted like the confrontation never happened. And honestly, that's when I realized it was over. Maybe it had been over for a long time, and I'd just been too stupid, too loyal, to see it. I was living with a stranger. A cold, beautiful, manipulative stranger. And somehow, I was the one who felt like the intruder in my own home. I started sleeping in the guest room. That's how it began. No announcement. No argument. I just grabbed my pillow one night and said, "I've been snoring a lot lately, don't want to keep you up." She didn't even blink. Didn't ask why. Didn't protest. That told me everything I needed to know. She was fine with the distance. She was already gone, emotionally. Hell, maybe she had been for years. I think some part of her assumed I wouldn't do anything. That I'd swallow it. That I'd break, maybe cry a little, and move on like nothing happened. She miscalculated. Badly. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of the texts. I backed up her WhatsApp chats. Took photos of her comings and goings. I even placed a cheap voice recorder under the passenger seat of her car. It was petty. It was dark. But I didn't care. I was done playing the fool. Then I got a lawyer. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. I wanted options. I needed to know where I stood, financially, legally, emotionally. The attorney listened, reviewed what I had, and told me bluntly, "You've got enough to bury her if you want to. Especially if you don't want this going public for your son's sake." That last part hit me hard. Jason. God, I hadn't even thought about how I'd tell him. Should I tell him? Was it even my place? He's 19, not a kid, but still our son. Our child. And no matter what Emily had done to me, she was still his mother. That fact kept clawing at me every time I imagined dropping the truth on him. I was stuck. Torn between protecting my son and freeing myself. But the more time passed, the more I realized something ugly and undeniable: Emily wasn't done. I caught her one night, whispering into the phone while pretending to be scrolling through Pinterest on the couch. I didn't say a word. I just stared at her until she noticed. And you know what she did? Smiled. That was her game now. She knew I knew, and she didn't care. It was like a sick power play. What are you going to do about it? So I made my decision. I was going to leave. Not storm out. Not burn everything down. But quietly. Carefully. With my dignity intact. I started moving my money into a separate account. I made copies of all our important documents. I spoke to friends, lined up a temporary place to stay. I even found a therapist, because, yeah, I was unraveling inside, and pretending to be strong wasn't cutting it anymore. The moment of truth was coming. I could feel it in my bones. But first, there was one more thing I had to do, the hardest thing of all. I had to tell Jason. I didn't sleep the night before I talked to Jason. I kept playing different versions of the conversation in my head, trying to figure out the least damaging way to destroy his world. I even considered not telling him at all. Maybe I could just leave, let Emily spin her own story, protect him from the mess. But deep down, I knew that if I didn't tell him the truth, she would. And she'd twist it. Paint herself as the victim. Or worse, blame me. And the idea of my son resenting me for something she did? I couldn't live with that. He came home for the weekend, said he needed a break from campus. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well either. I wondered if he'd started to pick up on something, or if that gut instinct, the one I ignored for too long, was now haunting him too. We were in the garage when I told him. Just the two of us, sitting on lawn chairs surrounded by boxes and tools and memories. Jay, I said, I need to talk to you about something serious. He turned toward me slowly. You okay, Dad? I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice calm. It's about your mom, and Coach Ray. His face changed instantly. Confusion. Then worry. Then something else, something like realization. What about them? I told him everything. Not in gory detail, but enough. That I had reason to believe they were having an affair. That I'd seen the messages. That it wasn't just a one-time mistake. That it had been going on for months, maybe longer. That she was using his practices as cover. He didn't say a word. Just stared at the concrete floor, like he was trying to process the world being ripped out from under him. After a long, horrible silence, he finally said, I knew something was off. I just didn't want to believe it. That broke me. I told him I was sorry. That I should have seen it sooner. That I never wanted him caught in the crossfire. He didn't cry, but I could see the pain in his eyes. The kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any breakup or injury. His mother. And someone he trusted. He asked if I was divorcing her. I nodded. Good, he said, without hesitation. She doesn't deserve you. We didn't talk much after that. We just sat there in silence for a long time. But it wasn't awkward. It was healing. Like he needed to sit with the pain just as much as I did. Before he went back to school that Sunday, he hugged me longer than usual. Said, thanks for being honest. I've never been more proud of him. Or more heartbroken. My wife didn't just cheat on me. She cheated on us. On the family we built. On the trust she pretended to honor. And now, there was no going back. It was a Wednesday evening, rainy, quiet, one of those nights that already feels heavy before anything even happens. Jason had gone back to campus. The house was too still. I'd gone through every phase already, shock, pain, rage, grief. Now, all I felt was clarity. I waited until after dinner. She was washing dishes like she hadn't blown our life to hell, humming under her breath like she was the perfect suburban wife. The same woman who'd mocked me for checking her phone like a teenager. The same woman who'd tossed our vows aside for some pathetic thrill with a younger man. I came into the kitchen and just said it. I've spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. The humming stopped. She turned slowly, drying her hands on a towel, and looked at me like I'd just told her the weather was nice. Oh, now you're being dramatic, she said. There it was. No, why? No, can we talk about this? Just dismissal. Like I was being overly emotional, like I was the problem. I'm not being dramatic, I said quietly. I'm being done. She leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, that same smug tilt of her head she always used when she thought she had the upper hand. You're really gonna throw away our whole marriage over a couple of texts? My jaw tightened. Don't insult both of us. It wasn't just texts. You used our son's basketball practices to sneak around behind my back. You lied to my face. You laughed when I confronted you. She shrugged. It was just sex, okay? It's not like I fell in love with the guy. You act like I ran away and started a second family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You don't get to downplay what you did, I said, my voice rising despite myself. You disrespected our son. You disrespected me. And you threw away everything we built, for what? Some ego boost from a guy who probably flirts with every mom in the bleachers? That hit her. She flinched, ever so slightly. Then came the bitterness. Well, maybe if you had shown even a fraction of the attention he did, I wouldn't have needed it. There it was. The blame. I expected it, but still, it burned. You didn't need anything, I said. You made a choice. A selfish, cruel, destructive choice. And now I'm making mine. She scoffed. Good luck finding someone else who'll put up with your boring, lifeless routine. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel love. Or pain. Or even anger. I felt pity. Emily, I said, you don't even like yourself. That's why you need people to worship you. But the sad thing is, no matter how many guys you seduce, you'll never fill that emptiness inside you. She opened her mouth, but I didn't give her the satisfaction. I turned and walked away. That was the night I emotionally detached. She could keep pretending. Keep lying. Keep justifying. But I was done. And this time, she knew it. It didn't take long for Emily to realize she was losing control. And like anyone who thrives on manipulation, she did what manipulators do best, she changed tactics. The Ice Queen routine didn't work, so she tried something new, damage control. First, she started acting like the loving wife again. Cooking my favorite meals. Wearing perfume she hadn't touched in years. Making flirty, passive-aggressive comments like, "Remember when we used to laugh," as if nostalgia could undo betrayal. I ignored all of it. Then came phase 2, guilt trips. She sat me down one night and, dead serious, said, "So you're really willing to blow up our family over one mistake?" One mistake. Not months of lies. Not calculated betrayal. Just a little oopsie, apparently. I told her, you didn't make a mistake. You made a decision. Over and over. Her face tightened like she wanted to slap me. But instead, she smiled. That fake, poisonous smile I'd grown to hate. And then came phase 3, the lowest blow of all. She tried to get Jason on her side. I didn't hear it directly, but my son called me late one night, confused and hurt. He said, "Mom told me you're trying to break up the family and that you don't care about keeping us together anymore." I had to pull over my car. I was so pissed I couldn't drive straight. "Jay," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "you know me. Do you really think I'd walk away from this marriage for no reason?" He went quiet for a second, then said, "She also said you're making up the affair just to punish her for something else." That was it. I told him everything. The screenshots. The voice recordings. The night she came home looking like she'd been with someone else. How she never denied it. How she laughed. Mocked me. Blamed me. I told him I had proof but hadn't wanted to drag him through it. And then he said something I'll never forget. "Dad. I believe you. I already did. But I needed to hear it from you." I was quiet. Then he added, "You don't deserve this. I'm with you, no matter what happens." I don't think I've ever felt both more heartbroken and proud at the same time. My son, our son, had become the adult in this story. More mature than either of us. And Emily? She had just lost the only person left on her side. She must have known something was off because that same night, she texted me. "What did you tell him? He's barely speaking to me now." I didn't respond. I didn't owe her anything. Let her sit in the silence for once. Let her feel what it's like when no one's left to believe your lies. Because the moment she tried to turn our son into a pawn, she didn't just lose a husband, she lost her family. Once Jason knew the truth and stood by me, it was like a weight had been lifted. I finally felt like I could breathe again, not fully, but just enough to start moving forward. Emily must have sensed the shift. Her little empire of control was collapsing, and she didn't like it one bit. We started the official divorce proceedings a week later. I'd already retained my lawyer. He was sharp, methodical, and didn't tolerate games, exactly what I needed. Emily, on the other hand, tried to play the role of the wounded wife. Her attorney started with the classic routine: he's being vindictive, emotionally distant, emotionally unavailable. They tried to paint me as the problem. That's when I dropped the folder of evidence on the table: screenshots, chat logs, time-stamped voice recordings, even bank statements showing a hotel charge on a night she was supposedly late helping organize team equipment. Her lawyer went pale. Emily didn't say a word. She just stared ahead, lips pressed so tight they disappeared. She knew she'd been caught. Not just morally, but legally. In our state, infidelity does matter. And her documented affair? That gave me leverage, real, solid leverage, for both asset division and spousal support. But even after that, she couldn't help herself. She tried one final, desperate stunt. 3 days after the preliminary hearing, I got a visit from Child Protective Services. Yup. You read that right. Apparently, someone had anonymously reported that I was emotionally abusive to our son and possibly unstable. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how pathetic it was. Jason was 19. Legally an adult. CPS didn't even know why they were sent out. I invited the investigator in. Showed them everything. Jason even spoke to them directly, told them the truth, and said, in front of the caseworker, "My dad is the only one who hasn't lost his mind in this family." The case was closed in under 48 hours. But the damage? That was already done. Not to me, to her. Jason found out she was the one who made the call. He confronted her, furious, and from what he later told me, it was ugly. Screaming, crying, denial, the works. That was the last night he stayed at the house. He packed his things and told her, "Don't contact me unless it's about something serious." She lost him. She lost everything. And yet, when we met for one final mediation session, she still had the nerve to say, "We could have fixed this if you weren't so stubborn." I looked her in the eye and said, "No. You could have fixed this. You just didn't want to until it was too late." And I walked out. Head high. Shoulders back. Heart broken, sure, but no longer in pieces. The woman I loved was gone. Or maybe she'd never really been there. Just a version of her I made up in my head. Either way, I was finally done chasing a ghost. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Clean break. I got the house, my savings, and most importantly, my peace. She walked away with her car, her clothes, and whatever dignity she still pretended to have. No spousal support. No second chances. Not even a handshake. Just signatures on paper and a door closing behind her. When the movers came to take her things, she didn't even show up. Sent a couple of guys with a list and a cold note. "Please respect my space and don't go through my things." Her space. Funny how fast our became her when things stopped going her way. After she was gone, I wandered through the house like a stranger in a museum of memories. The bedroom we shared was empty, just walls and dust where her perfume once lingered. The kitchen, once full of life and bickering and laughter, now echoed. Even the living room felt bigger somehow, like the silence had grown legs. I thought I'd feel relieved. Instead, I felt numb. I didn't miss her. Not really. What I missed was the version of her I thought I had, the loyal partner, the teammate, the woman who'd promised me forever. But that version was dead. Or maybe she never existed outside of my hopeful imagination. Jason came home for spring break and stayed with me. He brought snacks, movies, even tried to cook, emphasis on tried. We didn't talk much about his mom, but there was this quiet understanding between us, like we'd both been through war and were just grateful to be on the same side. One night, while we were watching some dumb action movie, he turned to me and said, "You seem lighter now. Like, finally free." He was right. I was free. Not just from her, but from the constant self-doubt. The walking on eggshells feeling. The gaslighting. The late nights wondering what I'd done wrong. Now, I had clarity. I had control. I had myself again. I went back to therapy. I picked up an old hobby, woodworking. Built a new shelf for my office and didn't tell anyone. Just quietly reclaimed parts of my identity that had been buried under years of compromise. The best part? No more pretending. No more fake smiles over cold dinners. No more hiding pain under routine. No more guilt for not being enough for someone who never valued what I gave. I was alone. But I was whole. So here we are. The end of the story, or at least, the end of that chapter. It's been about 9 months since the divorce was finalized. I've moved forward, slowly, painfully, but forward nonetheless. Some days still hurt. Sometimes I catch myself staring at an old photo and wondering how it all went so wrong. But those moments pass now. They don't own me anymore. If you've read this far, maybe you're someone who's been cheated on. Or maybe you're just trying to understand what betrayal really does to a person. Either way, here's what I'll leave you with. 1. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, really wrong, it probably is. I ignored the signs because I loved her. Because I didn't want it to be true. But love shouldn't require you to go blind. 2. People who betray you will almost always try to make it your fault. She lied. She gaslit. She blamed me for her affair. And for a moment, I almost believed it. Don't ever let someone convince you that their lack of integrity is a reflection of your shortcomings. 3. The truth is always better than the illusion. Even when it hurts. Even when it rips you in half. Because at least now, I'm living in reality. I'm not building my life on a lie. And there's freedom in that, even if it's a cold kind at first. 4. Your pain will not last forever. It feels like it will. It feels like it's going to drown you. But it won't. Eventually, the rage softens. The sadness fades. You start to laugh again, sleep again, hope again. I promise. 5. Healing isn't about replacing someone. It's about rediscovering yourself. I haven't dated since the divorce. I'm not rushing. I'm not looking for someone to fix me. I'm just getting reacquainted with the man I used to be, before the lies, before the betrayal, before the trust was shattered. And as for Emily? I haven't spoken to her in months. Jason keeps minimal contact, mostly out of guilt, I think. She tried reaching out once. Sent a message saying, "I still believe we could have made it work." I didn't reply. Because she was right about one thing, she did show me what she was capable of. And I finally believed her. So if you're reading this and you're in a place of doubt, fear, or emotional limbo, I see you. I know what it's like to feel like your whole life just crumbled under the weight of someone else's choices. But you will survive it. And you'll come out the other side stronger, smarter, and more grounded than ever. I'm living proof. Thanks for listening. A man who finally chose himself.